Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, I'm going to be your teacher, and we're going to take an unhurried walk through the fascinating, bustling, living city that is your skeletal structure. We aren't just going to skim the surface here. We're diving deep into the architecture of your anatomy to figure out exactly how bone and cartilage are built, maintained, and repaired. By the time we're done, I want you to walk away with a really profound understanding of the incredible foundation holding you upright right now. Just like any good masterclass, here is our syllabus for today. First, the macrostructure of bones. Second, microscopic canals and cylinders. Third, the cells building your bones. Fourth, cartilage, the flexible foundation. And fifth, 3 types of cartilage. Let's get right into it. Section 1, Macrostructure of Bones. To start off, I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine holding a large, whole bone in your hands, like the femur in your thigh. To the touch, it feels like a solid, inanimate rock, right? But bone is actually a totally dynamic, living tissue. It's the toughest living structure in your body, but it's definitely not just a chunk of hard calcium. A massive proportion of it is formed by organic collagen fibers, which give the bone its immense strength, along with living cells and minerals. And get this, an average of 10 to 20% of this seemingly dry, dusty bone is literally just water. Crazy, right? Now, if we map out that long bone from top to bottom, we can systematically break its structure into 3 distinct, highly specialized regions. Up at the very terminal ends, we have the epiphyses. Moving inward just a bit, we find a transitional zone called the metaphysis. And finally, that long middle shaft of the bone is known as the diaphysis. These aren't just fancy geographical terms either. Each region plays a vastly different mechanical role in keeping you moving. What's really interesting here is how the weight is distributed. That long external shaft, the diaphysis, is made of incredibly tough, dense cortical bone. This heavy-duty armor makes up a whopping 80% of your total skeletal mass. Meanwhile, the spongy ends, the epiphysis, make up the remaining 20%. But hey, don't let the word spongy fool you into thinking it's weak or unimportant. That spongy terminal end is absolutely vital. It's filled with these small, weight-bearing, cross-linked regions called trabeculae. More importantly, this cancellous, spongy part of the bone is completely packed with red bone marrow. This region alone is a literal factory that pumps out 20% of your body's blood cells. Before we zoom in any closer, let's contrast the 2 essential protective layers covering these bones. On the outside, wrapping the whole thing, we have the periosteum. This outer envelope allows your muscle tendons to firmly anchor to the bone and provides crucial pathways for blood and lymphatic vessels. Then, on the inside, lining the hollow inner cavity of long bones, we have the endosteum. This is a soft, thin layer, but it is absolutely critical because it harbors osteogenic progenitor stem cells. Basically, these are the exact cells that jump into action to heal and fuse your bone if you ever suffer a fracture. Moving right along to Section 2, Microscopic Canals and Cylinders. All right, time to pull out our microscopes. Let's zoom way in on that hard external cortical bone of the diaphysis. If you look at a cross-section of it, you'll see it isn't just a solid wall. It's actually bundled out of countless, tightly packed microscopic cylinders called osteons. Imagine grabbing a handful of uncooked spaghetti and squeezing it tight. Each single strand of spaghetti is an osteon, and bundled together, they give the overall bone immense structural integrity. Let's look even closer at just one of those single cylinders. Each osteon is made up of concentric circular layers, kind of like tree rings, known as lamellae. These rings are a mix of an organic part, which is that collagen we mentioned earlier, combined with a rock-hard inorganic part called hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite is basically calcium phosphate, and it is the exact mineral compound that gives bone its legendary, unbending rigidity. So with all this dense rock, how does the structure actually stay alive? Well, remember our city metaphor? Think of the bone as a bustling city with an intricate network of highways. Right down the exact center of every single microscopic osteon cylinder runs a Haversian canal. This acts as a pipeline containing the blood supply and nerves for the bone cells. And if we zoom all the way back out to the very center of the whole long bone, we find the massive medullary canal. This is a large hollow space lined by a honeycomb-like spongy bone containing the marrow that serves as another major site for producing blood cells. Which brings us to Section 3, the cells building your bones. Now that we've got the architecture down, let's meet the actual cellular construction crews that build, maintain, and demolish this incredible structure every single day. We can neatly divide our microscopic workforce into three main roles. First, we have the builders, the osteoblasts. These are progenitor cells that actively secrete the fresh bone matrix around themselves. Second, we have the directors, the osteocytes, which are the mature bone cells that manage the tissue. And finally, the demolition crew, the osteoclasts, which perform the vital, continuous job of breaking down old composite material in your bones so it can be recycled and rebuilt. The life cycle here is just wild. See, when those builder osteoblasts are doing their job, pouring out that matrix, they actually end up walling themselves in. They become completely isolated, trapped inside tiny little caves called lacunae. But once they're fully trapped in their own freshly secreted matrix, they graduate. They transform into mature osteocytes. As mature osteocytes, they take on a huge managerial role. They literally direct newer osteoblasts to sites of damage to speed up healing, and they even help signal the demolition crew to clear away old bony matrix. All right, Section 4, Cartilage, the flexible foundation. Having thoroughly explored rigid bone, let's switch gears to its softer, more flexible counterpart that cushions our every single move, cartilage. Cartilage is a soft, flexible connective tissue, all wrapped up in a protective layer called the perichondrium. Fun fact, in a developing embryo, your skeleton actually starts out as cartilage. It's the literal precursor to your bones. In adults, it's formed by cells called chondroblasts, which turn into chondrocytes that also live inside their own little lacunae. These cells produce a really firm matrix made of collagen protein and proteoglycan, giving cartilage that unique, rubbery, shock-absorbing bounce. Now, here is a massive takeaway I really want you to remember from this lesson. How does cartilage eat? Unlike bone, which has all those bustling Haversian canals bringing in blood, cartilage lacks blood vessels completely. Zero. It has to get all of its nutrition entirely passively, by diffusion from the surrounding tissues. And that, right there, is exactly why a joint or cartilage injury takes so painstakingly long to heal. Without a direct blood supply, its cells can only grow and repair at a fraction of the speed of other tissues in your body. Finally, Section 5, 3 types of cartilage. Your body is brilliant. It doesn't just use a one-size-fits-all approach. To meet all the diverse mechanical needs you have, this amazing avascular tissue specializes into 3 totally different forms. First, we have hyaline cartilage. This stuff is incredibly smooth, perfect for allowing tissues to slide easily against each other in your joints, and it also forms your nose and connects your ribs. Second is fibrocartilage. This is the absolute hardest, toughest type of cartilage in your body. It acts as a heavy-duty shock absorber in your intervertebral discs and your knee joints. And third, we have elastic cartilage. Just like it sounds, it's the most flexible type, found in structures that need to bend but keep their shape. Think of your outer ear or your larynx. All right, class, as our explainer comes to an end, I want to leave you with one final kind of mind-bending thought. We learned today that those osteoclast cells are constantly demolishing your bone matrix, and osteocytes are constantly directing osteoblasts to rebuild it. It is an endless, lifelong loop of microscopic urban renewal. So, if your skeletal city is constantly being torn down and rebuilt from the inside out, how permanent is that structure holding you up right now? Are you even walking on the exact same skeleton you had a decade ago? It's definitely a fascinating reality to ponder the next time you take a walk. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep exploring and keep learning.